Hello, I'm Simon Owens, and you're listening to The Business of Content, a podcast about how publishers create, distribute, and monetize their digital content. In this week's episode, we discuss a new report measuring the rate of fraud within the Instagram influencer community. Back in January, I wrote an article for New York Magazine asking whether it's time for the US government to enact stricter regulation on social media influencers. I pointed to investigations from news outlets like the New York Times that uncovered companies that had sold hundreds of millions of fake followers to willing buyers, most of whom wanted to inflate their online influence. In many cases, these fake followings were then used to dupe unsuspecting brands into purchasing sponsored Instagram posts. The rising prevalence of fraud within the Instagram influencer community has led to greater scrutiny and efforts to detect such fraud. To do so, brands now often use software like Hype Auditor, which scans an influencer's account in search of automated and fraudulent activity. Hype Auditor recently leveraged its data to generate a report on the current state of Instagram influencer fraud. I interviewed Yarrow Pat, Hype Auditor's product owner, about the results of the report and how Instagram fraudsters are getting more sophisticated in how they game the Instagram algorithm. Let's jump right into it. Hey Yarrow, thanks for joining us.
Hello, thank you for having me here.
So you work for a company called Hype Auditor. Can you tell me about what your company does?
Yeah, sure. So our mission is to set a standard in Instagram account analytics and to make the whole influencer marketing transparent, fair, and effective. So we analyze Instagram accounts for fake followers and engagements like likes and comments, and we use the most advanced AI-based fraud detection system to do that. So advertisers and influencer marketing agencies use our data to evaluate bloggers' audience and make decisions. And also influencers receive free weekly reports from us to make sure that they grow their audience by numbers, not by guess,
So like a brand would hire you or would pay for your software and would then, if they're thinking about hiring an influencer to promote their brand through like a paid post, they'll first use your software to make sure that their followers are real and that they're not padding their followers with like fake followers and fake engagement.
Exactly, yeah. So any brand or any advertiser can open our website, input the username, and get the full report in less than 2 minutes and see if all the activity on the account is real and to see what part of the activity looks suspicious. And we do this by using artificial intelligence, by using machine learning. So this is not biased, So this is a technology that was trained on thousands of accounts of real people and accounts of bots, so-called bots. So our technology is able to distinguish the behavior of Instagram audience.
And what do you specifically do for the company?
As a product owner, I coordinate design and development. I make the product vision come true and flesh out. And I also communicate with all parts of the team. So I communicate with marketing and PR. I communicate with customer success and with sales. And also I measure the result of all of our efforts. So I bridge all gaps between parts of the team, and half of my day, I just talk to people. And the other half of my day, I wireframe solutions, I write requirements, I test the product, and I plan future releases.
So your company, Hype Auditor, they recently released a report on the state of Instagram influencers in 2019. Can you talk a little bit about like what it took to create the report, like what the methodology was behind it?
Yeah, that's actually the most interesting part. So we did not create any specific technology or any specific methodology to build it. We used the same methodology that any of our users use every day, So we collect and aggregate open data from a variety of sources. After collecting raw data, we process it and we also anonymize. So all of our data is 100% private. We sort it and structure, we remove the outliers and irregularities, and we enrich it. And after that, we transform that data into intelligent insights and estimations using our calculations and machine learning algorithms, as I said, that were developed by our team of leading data scientists. And some people in our team are practicing data scientists, and they also work in universities. So That's actually kind of cool, right? So for this report, we took the data for 4 millions of Instagram influencers.
So there are 4 million Instagram influencers out there?
It's way more actually, but we took this big sample that is representative.
Mm-hmm. And then you basically plugged it into your already existing software, and then it did its analysis, and then you were able to kind of track macro trends based off of that.
Yeah, so that's mostly it. So we use public data, and the report that we are talking about was an outcome, was a byproduct of what we do every day for our users.
So your report, one of the things it showed that jumped out at me was that like there's like a huge growth in what are called nano influencers. I know there's this other term, micro influencers. They're kind of like a rising trend right now. What are those exactly?
Yeah, exactly. That's the most hot trend, right? It's called nano or micro influencers. These are bloggers with from 1,000 to 5,000 followers, and brands start to pay attention to those because they can exchange their products for a review from those influencers. So they sometimes don't even need to pay for a review, for a promotion. But for brands, it's also a way to scale and maximize reach. It's also a way to reach a very specific target audience, and it's also not very pricey. So any brand can go into influencer marketing and receive the result. And the nano influencers number is growing so quickly because being a blogger is a trendy thing. So everyone talks about being a blogger, and everyone thinks that being a blogger is cool. It's great. You don't need to go to office. You don't need to have a 9 to 5 work. You just live your life and you tell people about that. So that's why nano influencers are so popular, so hot right now.
So instead of having to pay a ton of money to like a influencer that has like 100,000 followers, you can like create a spreadsheet of these nano influencers that have, you know, a couple thousand followers each, and you don't have to pay them anything at all. You could just send them free clothes or whatever the free product is, and there is some cost involved with that, but it's not as much as having to pay like a big name influencer, and you can get a lot of free word of mouth, I guess, based off that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, well, it works actually. So with small influencers, the interesting trend takes place. You have some kind of online relationship with them, so you feel more connected to them because they are like your online friends. So and you're able to see and to share their emotions, and basically you believe them. So, and the part about exchange, it's not always that, right? So sometimes nano influencers also get paid. So it's not about the money, first of all. It's more about the fact that you can build an online presence and build an influence through those influencers. Sorry me for using the words with the same root.
So like your company focuses on rooting out fraud. Your study also largely focuses on the rate of fraud. How do you define fraud within Instagram influencers?
That's a great question. So we define any artificial activity to artificially inflate followers number or engagement, likes and comments as fraud. And why is this bad? Because this activity is fraudulent towards those who will pay for native ads, since the numbers will delude advertisers and make them pay more and receive lower performance, a lower number of installs, lower brand awareness. And this also leads to wrong conclusions made by people who invest in the relatively new and trendy form of advertising with bloggers.
Yeah, so if I'm a brand, I'm paying someone, you know, a few years ago, I might have paid someone purely based on their follower count. They had 100,000 followers, but it turns out they were using different methods to falsely inflate their followers. So they might have only had like 20,000 real followers, but I'm paying for the 100,000. So that's why this is so important an issue, because it can create a lot of waste in advertising.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and that's what called vanity metrics. First of all, followers number and engagement rate. So it's basically the percent of the audience who likes or comments, who engages with the content. And those metrics nowadays don't tell anything about the reach of that influencer, because those metrics are very easy to manipulate. So many brands start to switch to evaluating the effect of influencer marketing by sales, by installs, by number of leads, by using promo codes, and that's actually a good thing. So we think that all brands and all advertisers should not use vanity metrics. They should switch to actual performance metrics.
Yeah, and one of the ways that they cloud the water is like it's not just about buying fake followers, but they have actual programs that can create like a lot of engagement, not just on their own accounts, but on in terms of other accounts. Like I was interviewing a wannabe influencer once where he had some kind of automated program where he would give it a hashtag, and then it would, every time someone posted an Instagram photo with that hashtag, it would go automatically like that post and then maybe create a fake comment on it, with the hope that that person would then click through and maybe do the same to them or follow them.
Yeah, exactly. So by different estimations, up to 60% of activity on Instagram was generated somehow automatically. So these numbers come not from us. Those numbers come from different researchers. And we think that this kind of activity is fraudulent and it's damaging the whole market. So that's why we stand for transparent and effective and fair influencer marketing. So we think that authentic behavior is way better than automated behavior that is generated by bots.
And Instagram, as a company, they recognize this as well, right? Like they just rolled out a rule back in December to crack down on automated activity, saying if you use these kinds of things, you're going to be punished. Have you seen any impact from that?
Yeah, and it's great that Instagram did that. And we hugely support this. And we understand, and I personally understand the amount of work, what they need to do to tackle the fraud. So it's great that they do not pretend that there is no problem at all. Because many big companies sometimes pretend that everything is great, everything's okay, and it's great that Instagram doesn't pretend everything's okay. We didn't detect any immediate effect, but we understand that this is a long-term process, and Rome was not built in a day. So we'll see the result later, I think.
And you were talking a little bit about vanity metrics and how you're seeing brands move away from just looking at follower accounts or just engagement. What are the metrics that they should be following?
So I think the metrics they should really monitor are the end of the funnel. So the sales number, the number of installs, the number of leads generated from influencers, number of promo codes used, so stuff like this. So this way they will see the real result. Because if brands will measure the reach by simply adding the number of all followers of all influencers they worked with, this is only the beginning of the funnel. This is not the real result, right? And also, as soon as we know about fraudulent activity, we understand that they should probably look not into the number of followers, but into a number of quality followers, for example. And this is one of the metrics that we provide. So we show number of quality followers and authentic engagement for every Instagram account.
So you're recommending what they kind of do a lot in the podcasting industry, where they offer some kind of code for each like podcast, where they'll say, go to this website and enter this code and you get a 10% discount. And that would obviously incentivize the people who are being affected by the ad to actually enter that code. And then they can see, what the actual impact of the advertisement was.
Yeah, exactly. So, for example, if you advertise with 10 different influencers, give them 10 different promo codes, and that will be the actual result of influencer marketing. It's the number of people who visited the website and number of people who redeemed that code.
Of course, that works mainly just for direct sales type advertisers, not like brand advertisers that are just trying to raise a brand awareness.
Well, yeah, so it's kind of hard to measure brand awareness, but still, if you work with influencers with quality audience, not with audience that consists of bots mainly, you probably will have more people see your ad, because when Instagram shows a post to bots, this post doesn't get any attention by those bots. So Instagram decides not to show that post to other followers of the influencer.
And it seems like, the more followers an influencer gets, the more their engagement goes down. Like you have these charts in the report, that shows, the influencers with like 1 million followers, their engagement rate is much lower than someone with like 5,000 followers. Why do you think that is?
So I think there are two main reasons for that. First reason is the one that I said before. So when Instagram shows a post to some of the followers of celebrities, and they do not interact with it, they do not engage with it, Instagram decides to show this post less. So this is how the algorithmic feed works. And Instagram covered this recently in one of their public talks. And one more thing is that when you interact with a blogger with a small audience, you feel connected with them. So it's like your friend online, right? As I said before. So this is why people are not shy. People know that they will, if they ask a question, they will get a reply from that blogger. And I don't think that a celebrity will reply any comment in under their posts, right?
Yeah, and I also think maybe it's because like sometimes if you see somebody has a lot of followers, you'll follow them even though you don't really know that much about them, so you might be less engaged. Whereas if you follow someone who only has 5,000 followers, you're not following them because they're a celebrity. You're following them because you actually want to see their content.
Exactly. And also small influencers focus on their main topic, their main subject, the main thing they're talking about. So celebrities post occasionally, and their posts are always, like nice photos from some public events or some charity events, stuff like this. And small influencers post almost daily, and they post about an interesting subject that you feel related.
So, like we talked about some of the strategies that as you mentioned, like a lot of people are trying to get into being Instagram influencers. I've definitely spoken to people who are trying to move up their follower counts. They're constantly trying to game the system. A lot of the things I knew about, but when I was reading your report, I learned about comment pods, and I didn't know what those were. Can you kind of explain what that is?
Yeah, that's one of the most advanced and hard to track things. So, and this is one of the most recent inventions in fraudulent Instagram activity. So, Instagram engagement pods or Instagram comment pods are groups of users that commit to consistently engaging with each other's content. So, they communicate with each other via Instagram direct messages or via Telegram or WhatsApp or Facebook groups. And every time someone in the pod publishes a new Instagram post, they share a link to it in this group, and everyone goes and clicks on this link, likes it, leaves a comment, and sometimes they even say like, you need to make a comment with 4 words, and you should ask a question, or you should express some kind of opinion. So this kind of activity is still fraudulent because this doesn't increase real engagement, this doesn't drive sales, this doesn't drive any return of investments for advertisers, but creates a nice look, it creates a vision of activity.
Yeah, so all these people, they're in the same maybe WhatsApp group or Instagram group or some kind of private group, and every time someone publishes a new post, they post a link to it and they say, hey, go quickly to this post and start liking and commenting on it, so it will move up in the Instagram algorithm and more people will see it. So that's kind of how it works. So I had never heard about this with Instagram, but stuff like this is existed on other platforms. I used to be into Dig back in the day when it was mainly a social voting platform where you voted up on content, and they had these things called power diggers. So someone would submit a link to Dig, and then if you were one of these power diggers, they were all like connected on like GChat, on Gmail's GChat, and then they would all start chatting with each other and saying, hey, go dig this link I just posted, and then there would be reciprocal digs, and then they would get it to the front page that way. So it's interesting that old school thing that 10 years ago was common practice with Dig is now a common practice with Instagram.
Exactly, yeah. So the same approaches move from one platform to another.
Yeah. Well, Yaro, those were all the questions I had for you. Thanks for joining me. Where can people find you online?
Well, for sure you can find our product, hypoditor.com, and you can find me on LinkedIn or on Facebook. It's Yaro Pat.
Awesome. Well, this was a lot of fun. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all we have for you today. Be sure to subscribe to the Business of Content on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. See you next week.